The classroom lights flickered again, even though I knew every switch in the hallway had already been turned off. I was alone. Or at least, I thought I was. My hands shook as I held the old wooden desk in front of me, trying not to breathe too loud. The air felt heavier than normal, like someone else was breathing right beside me, even though no one was there. Then I heard it. A desk behind me slid across the floor, all by itself. Screech. I spun around fast, but the room was empty. No wind. No people. Just rows of old desks and the smell of chalk and dust. But something was wrong. Every desk was now facing me. Every single one. They weren't like that before. I stepped backward, shaking, my heart pounding so loudly that it hurt. Then a soft whisper rose from the darkness behind the teacher's desk. At first it sounded like a little girl, saying my name even though I never told anyone I was staying late. Eli, don't stay after class. My throat felt like it closed up. I tried to run for the door, but it slammed shut right in my face. The old wooden boards shook. Then the chalkboard behind me started writing on its own, white chalk scratching so hard it almost snapped. Do not stay after class. I didn't move. I couldn't. My whole body felt frozen like ice. A shadow began to lift itself out from under the chalkboard. It stretched tall, taller than any teacher in the school, and its head scraped the ceiling. It didn't have a face. It was just darkness, but I could feel it staring at me. Then it stepped forward, and the classroom lights shut off all at once. Everything went black. Something cold grabbed my shoulder, and I screamed. But before I could understand what was grabbing me, the story really begins long before that night. Everything started 2 weeks earlier, when our teacher, Mr. Carter, announced that our school, Jefferson Old Academy, was turning 200 years old. Most kids didn't care. They just wanted cupcakes and a day without math homework. But I was new here, and I didn't know much about the school's strange history. Jefferson Academy is one of the oldest schools in America, Mr. Carter said proudly. Many students have walked these halls. Some say, some never left. Everyone laughed, except me. Not because I was scared, but because something in his voice didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like he meant it. My best friend, Noah, nudged me with his elbow. Don't let him freak you out, Eli, he whispered. This school just creaks a lot. Old buildings do that. But that wasn't true. I'd been in old buildings before. They creaked when wind blew or when people walked. Jefferson Academy creaked when it was silent, like things were moving even when nothing should be. The first strange thing happened after lunch that day. I went to get my backpack from my locker, but when I opened it, all my books were wet. Not damp. Soaking wet, like someone dropped them into a bucket of freezing water. I checked the pipes above, the floor below, everything. Nothing was leaking. Nothing was spilled. Then I noticed the water wasn't normal water. It was ice cold, and it smelled like the basement. I shut my locker and backed away slowly. Hey, you okay? Noah asked, walking up behind me. My books, they are soaked, and the water smells weird. He sniffed one and made a face. Smells like metal. Or like old water. Old water? I asked. He shrugged. Yeah, like water that hasn't moved in years. That didn't make any sense. How could water sit still for years inside my backpack? Unless someone put it there. But who? And how? And why? I tried to forget about it, but later that day, something even stranger happened. We were in history class, learning about the school founders. Our old projector flickered on by itself, even though no one touched it. The screen showed a picture of 3 kids standing in front of the school from long ago, maybe the 1800s. They all looked normal except the girl in the middle. Her face was blurry. Too blurry. Not like the picture was old. Like it had been purposely wiped away. And worse, the blurry shape seemed to be looking right at me. Mr. Carter quickly turned off the projector. Sorry, class. That slide shouldn't have been in there. But the way he said it felt wrong. He didn't sound surprised. He sounded scared. I wanted to ask him about it after school, but I didn't get the chance. Because that was the same day the janitor, Mr. Walden, pulled me aside while I was packing my things. You're the new kid, right? He asked. He was tall, with gray hair and eyes that looked like he'd seen things he wished he hadn't. Yes, sir, I said. He leaned closer. A word of warning. Don't stay after class. Not in this building. My stomach dropped. Why? He stared at the dark hallway behind me. Because this school remembers things. And sometimes the things it remembers come back. Before I could ask him what that meant, he walked away, leaving me standing there with goosebumps all over my arms. The next day, teachers started preparing for the school's big anniversary. Decorations were hung everywhere, old photos, banners, old student papers, and even a huge timeline that showed all the events in Jefferson Academy's history. But one event on the timeline had a big red circle around it. 1874, the classroom incident. 3 students disappeared after staying after class. Only one desk was found overturned. No bodies were ever recovered. I felt my breath freeze. Wasn't that the same classroom I was in now? Room 104. I tried to tell Noah, but he laughed. Bro, every old school has creepy stories. It's just to make the building interesting. But that night, everything changed. We were supposed to go home early because the teachers had a meeting. But I forgot my science notebook in room 104, and my mom said I had to finish homework before TV. So I ran back inside to get it. The hallways were empty. Too empty. The air felt colder than outside even though the heaters were on, and the lights flickered like they were struggling to stay awake. When I reached room 104, the door was cracked open. The teacher had already left. I stepped inside quietly, grabbed my notebook, and turned to leave. But then I heard something. A whisper. A child's whisper. Not loud. Not angry. Just a soft, lonely voice coming from under one of the desks. Don't stay after class. I froze. I shouldn't have looked. I should have run. But I crouched down and lifted the edge of the desk. And there, in the pitch darkness under it, 2 small, pale hands were gripping the floor. Like someone was hiding under the desk but didn't want me to see their face. I gasped and fell backward. The hands slid away fast, disappearing into the shadows as if they melted into the floor. I ran for the door, but it slammed shut right before I reached it. Then the desks began turning one by one, all facing me. 1, 2, 3. Each screech louder than the last. The chalkboard wrote by itself. Do not stay after class. The whispering grew louder, turning into crying. Child crying. Girl crying. No, 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 she whispered. They won't let you leave. Then the lights turned off. All at once. I screamed and covered my ears, but the sound of footsteps, tiny footsteps, ran across the room. Then something cold and bony grabbed my shoulder from behind. I tried to pull away but couldn't. I felt breath, cold breath, on my neck. Something whispered, "Stay, with us." And that was when the classroom door slowly, very slowly, began to open all by itself, even though the hallway lights were completely off. A tall shadow stood in the doorway, and it started stepping toward me. The desk shook. The floor shook. My heart felt like it would explode. And just as the shadow reached out its long, dark arm toward me, the classroom windows shattered all at once. Glass exploded everywhere, slicing the air like tiny screaming stars. The room filled with freezing wind, blowing papers and books into swirling chaos. I dropped to the floor, covering my head. The hallway lights flickered again, slow, long flashes that made the shadows stretch across the walls like long black fingers. Jacob and I stood frozen in the middle of the hallway, both staring at the dark spot where the locker woman had vanished. It was like she melted into the floor. 1 second she was crawling toward us, her nails scraping the tiles, and the next, nothing. Not even dust. Just cold air brushing against our legs. Jacob grabbed my arm. We can't stay here," he whispered. His voice cracked. "We told you not to stay after class." My heart was beating so fast I thought it would burst. I didn't even want to breathe too loud. The entire school felt like someone had shut the door to the world outside and locked us in with something angry. But then we heard it. Click. A locker door snapped open by itself behind us. Click, click, click. One by one, the old metal lockers started popping open down the hallway, like invisible hands were testing each door. Slow, steady, coming closer. And then one slammed shut. Hard. The sound shot through the hallway and echoed until it felt like the walls were shaking. Jacob turned pale. "She's not done." I swallowed hard and felt sweat running down my back, even though the hallway was freezing. We backed away slowly, trying to stay quiet, but then the loudspeaker above us crackled. It hissed like someone breathing through it. Then a voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." But it wasn't a living person's voice. It sounded broken, like 2 voices talking on top of each other. One young, one old, and both angry. Jacob grabbed my wrist tighter. "We're going to the principal's office. It's the only place with a working phone." I didn't want to, but I nodded. We started moving fast but quiet, staying close to the wall, trying not to look at the lockers that were still creaking open on their own. We turned the corner and stopped. There, at the far end of the hallway, a figure stood. A tall man in an old-fashioned suit, one hand behind his back, the other holding something long and thin, like a ruler. His head twitched, like he was trying to lift it, but couldn't. Jacob whispered, "That's him. That's the old headmaster. The one who disappeared in 1912. He didn't walk toward us. He glided, like his feet didn't touch the floor. We backed up slowly, very slowly. His head jerked again, and then he lifted his chin just enough for us to see his face. Only, he didn't have a face. Just smooth, pale skin. No eyes, no mouth, nothing." Jacob grabbed my sleeve. "Run." We sprinted down the side hallway, turning as fast as we could. My backpack slammed against my back. My breath burned in my chest. We didn't stop running until we dove into Mrs. Hall's old classroom. Jacob shut the door quietly. We pressed our backs against it, trying to calm down, but then, something scratched the door. Not knocking, not pounding, scratching, slow and steady, like nails dragging up and down the wood. Jacob covered his mouth so he wouldn't scream. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely keep them still. "This isn't happening," I whispered. "It can't be real." Jacob shook his head. "This school is over 100 years old. A lot has happened here. People forget. But they shouldn't." We heard another scratch, this time higher up, like whatever was outside was climbing. Jacob pulled me toward the teacher's desk. "Hide." We crouched behind it, barely breathing. Then the door handle started turning. Very, very slowly. My stomach twisted. My heart pounded so loud I was scared the ghost would hear it. The door creaked open, but nothing stepped inside. Just silence. I didn't know if that was better or worse. Jacob peeked over the desk, just for a second. Then he grabbed my shoulder so hard it hurt. His eyes were wide with fear. I didn't want to look, but I did, because something was moving across the classroom floor. Not walking, dragging. A shadow, long thin, stretching from the hallway into the room, like it was reaching inside looking for us. Jacob whispered, "It's him. He's looking for us." The shadow slid toward the teacher's desk. Closer, closer, until it stopped right in front of us. Then, the classroom lights shut off. All at once, the room turned pitch black. And then, someone whispered right next to my ear, "Detention." I screamed. The lights flicked on instantly. But the classroom was empty. The shadow was gone. The scratching was gone. The door was shut again. Jacob was shaking so hard he could barely stand. "We have to leave. Now." We rushed out of the classroom and ran down the hallway toward the stairs. But halfway there, every classroom door on both sides of the hallway slammed open at the same exact time. Bang, 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 bang. Then they slammed shut again. Bang, bang, bang. Dust fell from the ceiling. I covered my ears. The noise was too loud. It felt like the school was trying to swallow us. We turned into the stairwell. But the stairs were covered in old, yellowed papers. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They drifted down from above like dead leaves. Jacob picked one up. It was a detention slip, dated 1904. But the part that scared us the most was the bottom, where it said student name. Someone had written in dark ink, "Your name. Tonight." Jacob dropped the paper like it burned him. "We have to go downstairs." We rushed down the steps, pushing through the papers that seemed to cling to our legs. When we reached the bottom, the hallway lights flickered again. But this time, they didn't turn on. Only the emergency lights lit up the hallway in a dim red glow. Everything looked soaked in blood. We rushed toward the principal's office. Jacob tried the door. Locked. He pounded on it. "Come on. Open." A shadow moved behind the frosted glass window. But it wasn't a person. It was tall. Too tall. And its head scraped the top of the door frame. Jacob stepped back. "No, no, not here too." The shadow leaned closer until its face pressed against the frosted glass. We couldn't see details, but we could see the shape of its mouth. Wide. Open. Like it was screaming. But no sound came out. Then suddenly the entire door began to shake, violently, like something huge was ramming into it from the inside. Jacob yanked my arm. "We need another way out." We ran down the hall toward the gym doors. They were old and heavy, but maybe they led outside. We pushed them open, and froze, because sitting in the middle of the dark gym was every school desk, all arranged in neat rows, facing the center, where one single chair sat. with someone sitting in it. A girl, wearing an old-style school dress, covered in dust. Her head bowed low, her long hair hiding her face. I whispered, "Do we go around her?" Jacob shook his head quickly. No, 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 don't get close." We stepped backwards slowly. Then the girl lifted her head. Her jaw hung open, loose and broken. Her eyes were black holes. She whispered, "Class isn't over." Then the gym doors slammed shut behind us with a deafening bang, and every desk began sliding across the floor toward us. Fast, faster, scraping violently like an army coming to crush us. Jacob grabbed my hand and yelled, "Run!" And we sprinted across the gym as the desks crashed behind us like a stampede. Then, one desk flung, across the room and smashed into the wall right beside my head. Another flew. Then another. They weren't sliding anymore. They were being thrown. The girl stood from her chair with a sickening crack of her bones. And she screamed. The lights burst. The floor shook. And everything went dark. Except for her eyes. Two tiny white glowing dots. Right in front of us.